Hello, everyone. Beginning with assignment 5 right now, and it's a continuation of assignment 4. I'm going to show you the interface here, very similar initial functionality, but I just want to quickly review. We talked about in assignment 4 and throughout the course here about the MVC framework or architecture, model view controller, how that it divides an application's um, uh, platform or implementation into three discrete areas or component roles, and that is models, views, and controllers. You can see further information on assignment 4's requirements. You can go to that document. But essentially, the view is for the presentation, um, what the user sees and interacts with. The model is essentially the data model working with the actual database itself. And in our um, requirements, the model for this particular project is customer.java. We compiled that in assignment number 4. That was the model. Um, and our controller is the servlet, customer servlet, right? .java, and you can find that in admin. Um, but the view are the JSP pages, and can be strictly HTML pages as well too. But generally, JSP pages for us in other environments could be PHP, ASPX, um, Python, different types of development environments. But you have this again, three discrete layers. What we call division of responsibilities, also known as separation of concerns. And really what it does is allows a team of developers to break out into their strengths. Some may be really good at the design aspect, with visuals and color and background and things like that. Excuse me, some may be better with the database layer or the data repository, whether it's a NoSQL solution or a traditional relational database model. And then others may be better with or enjoy doing the programming. Now, at a very finite level, you guys are doing everything, right? You're doing the visualization, the what the user sees. You can spruce it up with color and images. You're also doing the coding, and you're also doing you created the database layer in assignment number 3, right? So basically, what's that called in professional environment is CRUD development. And I talked about this in class. I talked about assignment 4 and how we're starting the CRUD development. We started it really in very first assignment, right? Setting up our development environment. That's one of the trickiest things to do, by the way, is to set that up. But the CRUD environment, again, stands for create, read, update, and delete. Sometimes it's extended to SCRUD, SCRUD, and the S stands for search, and including a search functionality. And really, those are the basic functions of a web application. But we're not going to have a search functionality here. We're going to do something else, but not a search functionality per se, not a full-blown search feature. But the CRUD functionality are really the basic functions, the 4 basic functions of persistent data. Create, and in our purpose, it's insert, right? Because the database is already created. You created it. So create, read using a select statement, update statement, and then delete with the delete statement. So the CRUD 4 basic functions of persistent data. Moving on here, gang. What I'd like you to do is just quickly review LIS4368 underscore student underscore files that you had already cloned, so there's no need to clone it again. You don't need to do anything there. And I'm assuming that you already have your own LIS4368 if you're this far into the semester here. You have your own LIS4368. The LIS4368 underscore student underscore files is really your original clone files. You may have kept that, maybe not, or you just took out the underscore student underscore files and made that your course directory. Either way, you were given the cloned LIS4368 underscore student underscore files, and now you have an LIS4368 inside of your, we talked about this before, inside of your uh, web apps. So you're in Tomcat here, web apps, LIS4368, and then you have your subdirectories are essentially your assignments. Part two, I'm going to actually have videos for you. I'm creating this video right now, so you'll see that later on when you actually open up this assignment, there will be each bulleted item here. This will actually be the last one. So the others will be links to where those videos can be obtained. So we're going to use the server-side validation from assignment number 4. Let's take a look at that real quickly here. Okay, we're on assignment number 4. We click submit, and on purpose, what happened? Well, I'm sure that's never happened to you. Believe me, gang, it's happened to me as well too. And like, oh my gosh, I forgot to turn on the server, right? And it's a good thing not to have the server. You actually could have the server spun up every time that you booted up your machine, but that would take a lot of resources unless you're doing development constantly, generally like more than just the semester. That's your job. I would caution against spinning up servers like that from the boot because it just takes up resources. So anyway, we're gonna have to manually start it up. Okay, there we go. Again, gang, make sure, as I mentioned to you before, always take a look at your prompt, your window here when Tomcat is starting up. And if you get any errors, always go to this window as well to see what type of error messages that you get. Looks good to me over here. It's just showing all of the applications that we have, examples, hello, some other things there inside of web apps. By the way, this is all coming from web apps. Okay, and again, there is the excuse me, I'm rifling through here. Here is the assignment number 5 requirements. So you're going to have the server-side validation from assignment number 4. Okay, so let's go back here now, and I'm going to, I'm in assignment number 4. So remember how we did the, we're not doing full control validation, server-side validation. I left that for you as an extra credit to do each one of the controls. I hope that you did do that as a learning experience, but I didn't make you do it because it was fairly extensive coding that you would have to do for each one. You have to test it for using regular expressions for each one of the widgets, exactly like you did for client-side validation. But again, if you did do that, then you got the extra credit for assignment 4. Here's number 5. Number 5 is what we're going to do is the server-side validation, which you already have from assignment 4, and you're going to use prepared statements to help prevent SQL injection and Java Server Pages tag library to prevent cross-site scripting, as per assignment number 4 as well too. But it also adds one other functionality, and that is an insert functionality. Now, one thing I want to caution you, gang, is never ever take for granted that your web app is actually inserting data into the database. In another video, I'm going to try to show that for you, or I may do it in class instead. Not sure because it's going to take a recompilation. I have to do a recompile of a file to do that. I think I will do that in another video just to show you the issues that you have. But never ever trust your web application that looks like you're actually including the data into the actual data store, whatever it is. data file, XML file, a relational database, NoSQL solution, whatever it is, always go to the data source itself. So let's run this bad boy. I'm going to first show you that the assignment 4 validation should be here. There's my assignment 4 server-side validation. Okay, and I'm just going to go back, and I'm just going to fill this in with some dummy data. Okay, so I got this, got this, and before I submit this, I'm also going to do this to show that it prevents cross-site scripting. Before I do this, I want to make sure that you understand the issue of making sure that it's actually affecting the data, not just look like everything is working well, right? You want to make sure we're actually affecting the data. Matter of fact, assignment number 4, that's exactly what it did. Assignment number 4, all it did is just went to the thanks page, but it never did actually insert data. It looked like it did, but what we're going to do here is show tables. I already used my database. So show tables, and I'm going to select all from customer. Okay. All right, I got 5. Now, this is what you want to do always when you're testing your web application, regardless of the platform. Okay, so I'm going to submit, and everything looks good. It goes to the thanks page. It processes it. Do I have data? It looks like it. Test it out from your actual data store. And yes, it did add a 6 record here. But again, gang, just because the web app says it does, don't take that for granted. Okay? All right. One other thing I want to talk about here while we're here, and that is, if I can spin this bad boy up, is this thanks page. Now, I know I went into this before, but I want to show it one more time, just for clarification. Gang, one thing is when we're using these Java server pages tag library, make sure that you have my line 36, whatever yours is. Let me make this a little bit larger. Well, I'll do that. I showed thanks.jsp in another video in assignment 4, so you can go back and review assignment number 4, but this is just for a quick refresher here. Make sure that you have line 36 there, because we're actually grabbing the core package from the Java Server Pages tag library, and that way we can get everything to work here correctly. Now, I did show this before, so I'm going to do this rather quickly and not take up your time here. But this is very important, gang. You want to make sure that you don't allow a user to enter any code, any HTML or JavaScript or JSON. Now, truthfully, the HTML is more than likely is not going to hurt anything. It would just be processed. I'll show you here in a second. But notice how by the way, we used to prevent the cross-site scripting, we used the Java Server Pages cout tag. And what that does is for every excuse me, HTML special character or even XML special character, it will escape those characters, right? So, for instance, if I put in here left angle bracket, right? Let me go back here to show this. I'm back here in notes. If I put left angle bracket, which is equivalent, just that right there, the left angle bracket, which is equivalent to used to know these by heart here. Maybe if I could write it. I'm doing this. I used to do all this by hand, and now I got slides, ampersand. What is it? Oh my gosh. I know it's 60, but there's another character here. Anyway, it's that it would equivalent to the ASCII value 60. Okay, and the right angle bracket, so in other words, left angle equals 60, and then the right angle bracket would equal 62, right? There's another character that goes in there, but I can't remember it right now. Anyway, I used to do all this by hand, and even doing the escape characters by hand. I had a number of those HTML entities memorized. But anyway, so what it does, it escapes those characters because we don't want the data to be invoked. Now watch what happens when I save this as is. And again, I did show this to you before, but I just want to make sure that you are aware of this. Notice that when I hit submit again, that it processes that code. And it makes whatever was between those B and end B tags, bold and end bold, it actually formats that data. Again, with HTML, it more than likely wouldn't be problematic, but definitely would be problematic with JavaScript and any JSON that was used to try to do any cross-site scripting on your application. So you want to prevent that. And the way, again, gang, to prevent that is by using the cout tag here in in the user notes. So you would just do it as we had it, like this, right? Just like that. Save it, and then when you save it and process it again, you would see that no longer are those tags being processed through HTML. The special HTML tags are actually they're given character entities for each one of those values. Okay, so it would do the same thing, by the way, for JavaScript. It doesn't allow any special characters to be processed. All right, let me say this, most special characters, it doesn't allow them to be processed. And all the magic happens here, number one, by invoking the core package, line 36, and number two, by making sure you're using the cout tag for every one of your controls. Another thing that I want to talk about real quickly, and that is, and I know I said this as well too, how to use Java Server Pages comments. Okay, so the comments, if you take a look at line 38 there, I'm just using Java comments, right? // I could also do multi-line comments if I wanted to as well too. I have the full power of the Java language in using Java Server Pages and Servlets. But notice the special Java Server Pages tag I needed to use, and that is the left angle bracket %, and then % right angle bracket to end it, right? And then I could put anything I want there as a comment. Now, line 38 is just a comment that I was going to show in this video, and that is prevents cross-site scripting, the otherwise known as XSS attack, and escapes the output. Okay, so that's what the actual file thanks.jsp indicates here on line 38. However, notice that when I right-click on there and view the source, you'll notice that when I go to where all these, fname, lname, street, city, state, zip, right? I come down here, fname, lname, street, city, state, zip. Where's that comment? It's not here, right? The last HTML that you see is this, line 35, right? The bootstrap, col, extra small, 12 column small, offset 4, and that is right here, right? You see that right here. But you don't see is this comment on line 38. So it's a neat way of using internalized comments that users won't see. But again, as I mentioned to you in assignment number 4, please don't use this to store sensitive data. Okay, not a good thing to do that, because if your application was compromised for whatever reason, and they actually had access to the files themselves, like they had access to thanks.jsp, well, obviously, everything's going to be in there, Java Server Pages comments or not, right? So anyway, it's a good way to prevent users from seeing, maybe some team comments that you put in there, but nothing of ultra security that would be an issue. Okay, next on the agenda, in assignment number excuse me, let's get rid of this right here. Go back to here and let's go to the documentation. I also want to say that there's going to be a new way of compiling files. I mean, wouldn't that be kind of a drag if you had to compile each file individually like we have been? Now, sometimes you still have to do that, but here's a shortcut method of compiling all the Java files. Say if you had 20 Java files inside of a directory, right? And you were working on all of them, and you weren't able to compile them, and you had to close out of it, and you did something else, and then you go back and you forgot which files you were working on, but you need to compile them all for the application to work. Well, the fast way of doing that is right there. And again, it's the same command, whether it's a Windows or a Mac, right here. Same exact command. But you want to make sure that you CD to the correct classes subdirectory before you do that. Whether you're on Windows or whether you're on your Mac, you want to make sure you CD to that classes directory before you try doing any compiling. Gang, as far as customer, the model, we already did that, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. That's been done in assignment number 4. And the future videos, we're going to talk about the data and how we're interacting with the data, because we're actually connecting to the database. It's actually inserting data to a database using a web app. Pretty cool stuff. And then later on in project 2, we're actually going to do insert and delete. And then I also have some other functionality that you can use to do some additions to it if you want to. You don't have to, but I'll provide that for you, and you could take a look at it. If you want to provide that additional functionality, you can, but you don't have to. What's left here is you want to just take a look at these, peruse these requirements here. Excuse me. The README is going to have post valid user form entry, as well as the MySQL customer table entry. I'll show you here in a second. And then you're going to, if you need help with, pushing any of your files that you worked on, you can always go to lesson 6 in the useful links. Also, you can do the regular expressions for doing any of the data validation there, and there's a lesson there and useful links as well too. Now, there's a special consideration here when completing assignment number 5, and that is in the thanks here. And I want to make sure, and I already went through this, but make sure that you have this core, as I mentioned to you. It's the URI. Now, in the past, some people misspell that. They think it is URL. They've never seen URI. So if your tags don't work, it's because you're using URL instead of URI. Okay, so make sure that you do that. Also, the context.xml, I'll show this as well when we get to that point. The context.xml, you'll need to include the driver class name, and I'll show that when we get into the well, I already actually I already did show that. We did the context.xml. We talked about the driver class name, and I have a comment in there as well too. So I already provided that for you. What's next then is the customer form. This would be the valid user form entry. Okay, everything looks good. You got data there, and here's the pass validation. It goes to the thanks page. And then finally, here is our actual database. And we see that we have, it shows us that we have the tables, that we have our 5 records prior to the insertion, and then we do the select all again after insertion, and we see record number 6 over here. Okay, so make sure that you have a screenshot of that. And what else? Don't forget your questions, gang. Questions are required for this assignment as well too. What I probably will do is just, well, what I will do is I'll include the videos here underneath number 1, and then you'll see those links when the assignment becomes available. Okay, gang. See you in the next video.